Now introing Nostr, past, present, and future impact.
Ready? So it's going to be me and my esteemed colleagues, Will from Damus, and Rockstar from BTCPayServer, and over here, because the real Rockstar's not materialized yet.
He's coming.
Fashionably late. We don't need you anymore. No, we do.
I got yours. We weren't sure if you're going to make it, so we got to stand in. Although I think you added a couple inches to that.
No. Where'd you want it?
I don't know if that's your exact height there. There you go.
There we go.
Hello, Ben and Will.
Hello, nice to see you both again. So the panel is going to be on Noster, the past, the present, and the future of Noster. And we're just going to cover our own experiences of working with Noster, how we got excited about Noster, where we think it's going, and where it is now. So I suppose, yeah, let's just sort of get into it, I guess.
How many
Ben always likes Rockstar by his side, so...
Do you want to sit here?
No.
You want to be closer to Ben?
No.
Okay.
Will, you are the real
flanked.
Rockstar of Nostr, and the more you talk it is, the better.
I'm kind of curious, how many people here in the crowd right now have, who have they ever used Nostr before? All right, I got some.
Fantastic.
How many people have replaced Twitter with Nostr? Let's go. Nice. We got some hardcore people out here.
How many people have deleted their Twitter accounts? Nice. I haven't done that yet, so props to you.
There's a movement. There's a movement.
Ben is deleting his Twitter account by Nostriga. Go on GitHub, he promised. So otherwise, he needs to do something. So you will see that on GitHub.
I am for Nostr Riga. For those who are interested in Nostr, I highly recommend going to Nostr Riga. It's going to be a great conference in Riga, all about Nostr. What month is it in?
So it's in August. It's August 22nd and 23rd, but you should really arrive on 21st. There is Infinity Day that Knut organizes, and then there is Baltic Honey Badger 24th, 25th, BTC Pay Day 26th. So come, join
We always
us.
try to make the Nostr conferences as difficult as possible to get to. Like the first one was Costa Rica, and the second was Tokyo, and now it's in the middle of nowhere.
But it's nice the way they've managed the Nostr conference, because they've made a GitHub repo, and then you have to submit your proposal for a talk. So I was very drunk and excited, and I submitted my proposal for my talk, and then I did a McAfee, and I said if I still have because it asked for your Twitter profile, and I said if I still have Twitter at that point, then I will do a McAfee. So now I'm like bound to delete my Twitter account. Anyway, should we get on with the panel? We might as well.
All right.
So Will, how did you first find out about Noster, and when did you first start working on Noster, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been working on Bitcoin stuff. I worked on Core Lightning back in the day. I think I was one of the first 10 Lightning nodes on mainnet Lightning, and it's actually probably still the oldest running Lightning nodes. I've always been a huge Lightning maxi, and then I knew this other guy named Fia Jaff who was working on Lightning stuff, and he was working on LNural, which is just a way to like fetch Lightning invoices over the web, which was kind of cool. And then I realized. Oh, and then he had this other thing called Nostr. I'm like, what is this weird thing? And it was like it was related to fixing censorship issues on social media. And then this is the exact area that I have been interested in. And I tried to use Mastodon back in the day, and unfortunately I was like banned from multiple instances on ActivityPub just because I mentioned the word Bitcoin. I think there's like a lot of radical leftists on the Mastodon. I just like kept having to hop servers and rebuild my social graph. I'm like, this can't be like the solution to. I feel like there was more censorship on Mastodon than there was Twitter. And then I saw, Fia Jaff made this protocol. He just put together a markdown document, and I read it. And on a weekend, I just put together a client. I'm like, wow, that was incredibly simple that I could build this on a weekend. And then it's, smooth sailing from there, really. Well, it was almost no one used it for a year until Jack showed up, and he's like, and now everyone's liked it after that.
Yeah, well, I'm a very lucky person because Ben drags me into these side adventures. And then I end up having tons of fun and doing great stuff. And one of those instances was Nostr, because he added me to Nostr Telegram channel back when it was 30 people. And he wanted me to showcase Nostr on Sunday Coding with Uncle Rockstar, which obviously I promised to do and never did it. Sorry, Ben. But to me, it was amazing to see how us united by that common belief that you shouldn't be in position to be shadow banned or deplatformed, how united by that you had this like continuous waves of creating new technology and then getting to the point where Jack Dorsey like joined, because that was the final wave before Nostr getting into these Bitcoin conferences. Like I would say the first wave was that with Fiat Jeff and Ben in that Telegram channel. Then Will, you joined, did phenomenal job, and then finally when Jack joined, the third wave. And I'm really looking that we are going to have that fourth wave when someone like more people join, like Edward Snowden joins, Stella Assange. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I talked to Jack about Nostr, he told me it's like, this is what Twitter felt like at 5,000 users, but better. He's always said this is what Twitter should have been. He always wanted it to be an open API, open protocol, and it kind of just like went in a different direction. And that's why he's spending so much time funding projects like Blue Sky and Nostr. And then even recently, he's like, well, maybe Blue Sky is not going the right direction that I planned. But that's why he's been such a huge supporter and a huge Nostr maxi, because really this is the best solution among all the competing protocols to truly create a free and sovereign place in cyberspace, right? You know, before Nostr, really the only freedom tech was really just Bitcoin. Like when people said freedom tech, they were just referring to Bitcoin. But now we're starting to see these alternative, like adjacent protocols that are widening the scope of this idea of freedom tech. So I think we're going to see more and more freedom tech going in the future, because people, and I really think Bitcoin kind of like got people thinking about freedom tech. It's like, wait, we can actually have sovereignty over our money, over our data. And people are just rediscovering this, and we're rebuilding the web in some sense with this in mind. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think the revolution is public key cryptography and what that enables. And for some of us who've been around in Bitcoin for a while, there was a period where there was this idea that you would have all these different decentralized things on blockchains, like a decentralized Uber or a decentralized social network. And a lot of the shitcoinery came from those concepts. And I think that people inherently knew that this batch of technologies within it, there was a way to have freedom-centric platforms such as social media and whatever else, but they conflated it with this idea of a Bitcoin blockchain, which is completely unnecessary, as we know now with Nostr. So to have a bunch of people who are used to and comfortable using public key cryptography, and then to see them then use that technology to build something like Nostr, it's like, oh, all those ideas and all those good intentions people had early on in Bitcoin to build all these different solutions, we can build those things. So we don't need a blockchain, we don't need shitcoins. We could just, all we need is public key cryptography, which allows users to have control and power over their data. And that was the thing which really attracted me to Nostr. That and the fact that whatever comes after something like Twitter, for social media, for example, the problem with Mastodon is its network effect of users. Anything you spin up, you need users. And the interoperability of users on Nostr means that anyone can go build a client, and you instantly get access to how many 600,000 users who are using Nostr right now. And whoever uses your client can see the data in which they're publishing, which got me very excited early on.
You make a really good point about the whole blockchain aspect, because there was like that blockchain craze in 2016 where it's like everything's going to be on the blockchain. So I think that's actually something I really appreciate about Nostr, is that we proved that, like, no, you don't need to use a blockchain for everything. Blockchains are actually just really good for immutable ledgers, but storing notes like tweets don't necessarily need to be an immutable chain of entries. Like, it's not money. So maybe that's one big aspect of Nostr, is that we don't need blockchains for everything.
Yeah, I like the joke and say Nostr is Web3. Like, how they say, like, oh, Web3 this, what. Nostr is actual Web3. It is a protocol. It doesn't have a shitcoin. And there is so much amazing things that are being built on a Nostr as a protocol. Like, I really encourage, if you're a developer and you are wanting to get into free and open source software, right now, like, Nostr is the area to be in. Figure out how you can contribute and how you can build something on top of the Nostr, because in my view, it's only going to grow. Us cypherpunks will like to say that, like, cypherpunk future is now, and I really believe that. Like, cypherpunk future is now, but it's not equally distributed. If you have Bitcoin, if you have protected your identity, if you're using public-private key cryptography, you are in a phenomenal place in your life. But for a lot of people, we need to build tools. We need to allow them to use these technologies the way you said, Ben, so that cypherpunk future can really be now, and we can all be part of a better system. Not a system in which we post and we feed the machine of Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or all these people that don't know what to do with all the power that they have, but that we empower protocols, or as Ben likes to say, rules, not rulers, right?
Yeah, and in that same sense of like, we're building this future vision of a world where, and Jack said it really, really well at the Oslo Freedom Forum, where he said, it's not about free speech, actually. That's not even the most important thing right now. We have decent free speech on X, love or hate Elon, like he's trying his best. But really the biggest issue is the free will and the attack on, thinking for yourself, because the algorithms these days are so powerful that they can change one switch and change the way people think. And this it's kind of scary, right? Like they change the way that people can vote, or they can change people's opinions on certain things, and that's too much power. So I think Nostr right now has been focused on no algorithms, but I don't think the issue is that the fact that there's algorithms. The issue is that there's one algorithm that has so much power over everyone, and not one organization should have that much power over a whole population like that. So one of the new technologies we're working on at Nostr is an algorithm marketplace. So this will give you a way to try program different algorithms, plug them into your clients, and then you get to choose, and you will have a free market of people building healthy algorithm, things that are making people happy, not just this constant stream of fight videos and things that just engagement bait that gets people just to click the post, but it's actually harmful for society. So that's what I'm most optimistic about Nostr, is how we can change, how we can have positive impact on society just from a small change like that.
And I look at it, I must jump in on this, I don't even see malicious intent. I just see that their incentive is to monetize ads. And you could literally see on X, I don't know, I saw it on my feed, when they were experimenting and they were switching, all the worst influencer videos popped up one day, then the next day the algorithm is different, and it's problem of incentive. I want to go on social media to communicate some message. I don't want to be a advertising machine like COG. So incentives, align the incentives.
The algorithm thing's really interesting. So if you look at Bitcoin took money, the root of all evil, this dirty thing, and then it purified it. And it's a purer form of money because it's incorruptible by its nature, by being decentralized in the way in which consensus happens on it. And then when you talk about algorithms, we talk about them as a negative thing. We're being swayed this way or that way. Algorithms are actually really useful. I want to see content which is relevant to me. I want to see the content which my friends liked from somebody who I don't know, and I want to find that person. So we need algorithms. And the stuff which Will's doing, and a couple of other people, I think Rabble as well is quite interested in, is that idea of you can customize the algorithm you want. Maybe you want 2 degrees of separation, 3 degrees of separation between the posts in which you show. And then maybe in clients in the future, you can decide what algorithm you want to display the content. And if you're not happy with the content you're getting, you can just switch and use somebody else's algorithm. And then by having that marketplace, you have a rating system where you can see what other people enjoy and other people's algorithms. And it allows for some great computer science. And it just cleans up the whole concept of algorithms. And it's not only money, algorithms, it's also censorship. Censorship is good. I don't want to see stuff, horrible stuff. I don't want to go on my social media platform and see a bunch of snuff videos, but it's self-censorship. It's dependent upon where I point my client, who I subscribe to, who I connect with. So probably on Nostr you have more censorship than you would have on X or something, or one of those sorts of platforms, because on those platforms there's just one centralized authority which is deciding how things are censored, and they reside in a political jurisdiction which has certain affiliations or not. So again, we're cleaning up the concept of censorship because it's user-based and choice.
And I always like to think of what does the future look like if we in this world where everyone's running different algorithms all the time. So one thing that immediately comes to mind is, as a creator, usually if you're a creator, the first thing you want to do is like figure out how the algorithm works to try to game it so that you come out on top. But in a multi-algorithm world, you can go viral like every year, like in different parts of the world at different times. I think that's a really interesting aspect. If you're a creator, you can't go viral once, but you can go viral like multiple times in different places for different. If someone makes a new algorithm, all of a sudden you'll go viral again. So I think this opens up a kind of a cool way for creators to get their stuff out there even more.
I mean, it will be more organic in a way, and that's really the best thing for me whenever I interact with Nostr. It feels more organic. It feels that it flows more. You can sense that there isn't a central authority really dictating how the feed will look like. And you can see that they're not optimizing for monetizations, like what will be the post that gets the most clicks for the advertiser that most people will engage with. So again, I would really go towards, if you now know about Nostr and you don't have an account, like you don't have Nostr and PubNsec, it's like you heard of Bitcoin in 2012 and you never got any. Like that's how I see Nostr, and I would really encourage people to open Nostr accounts, and then any developers, any designers, any contributors in the audience, like figure out a way how you can do a project on Nostr, because at the end of the day, it's just a JSON file. Like it's just public private key cryptography that's wrapped in the most like libraries that you can use. And as Will said, you can build a client, well, even now, like in a day too. So find a way to interact with Nostr and contribute to Nostr.
And I think the first generation, we were just kind of we're just trying to chase what already exists. Like with the first generation, we have microblogging clients, like Twitter-like clients. But this system we're building is much more general than that. There's no reason why you couldn't build a video game and just that pulls down Nostr nodes and have nodes within the network be entities in a virtual space that are like shooting each other with like electricity weapons, which represent zaps. And this would just create a whole new way to interact with Nostr. And as a developer, that's so exciting and so interesting, because you're providing new like more and more ways for people to experience what this amazing system that we're building. And the biggest thing about Nostr as a developer is that you get all these users for free out the gate. The biggest hurdle about building an app is getting users and that's why big tech has such an advantage, is they have that market share and those network effects that is really hard to compete against. But what Nostr represents is that every individual developer is adding to the network effects of the whole entire protocol. So as a whole, we are actually putting up a serious fight against big tech, and I think it's the best fight that we have.
I think that was to Rockstar's point as well about it being more organic. So we saw on the internet when it came to communities that communities gravitated around interests, and they would have like interest-specific forums. So if you're interested in, I don't know, French bulldogs, then maybe that's where your social network resides, on some forum somewhere, and you would be, hang out with your other people who are interested in French bulldogs. But over time, the network effect of these massive platforms like Twitter and Facebook meant that users just gravitated across over to these big platforms, and they lost something of the cultural like representation which they had within the software clients they were using. And I kind of feel that we could have that when you talk about lots of different clients. I kind of feel like we could have that back. We could have the best of both worlds. So you have access to all the users in Nostr because we're sharing the NIPs, but then also you can have a themed client for the thing you're interested in. And I kind of imagine that, like, if the Trump stuff where he got booted off had happened now, somebody would just make like a MAGA client, and then they would use that, but then they would still also not be pulling themselves away from the rest of the network effect of all the users.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Even like the Japanese users, they have their own relays that are geographically locked to so you have to be in Japan to use them. So they've already created their own little social network within their country, and I think that's really cool that is flexible enough for these different types of use cases. And it solves I always say it solves one of the biggest problems. in terms of the relationship that we have with big tech corporations, because they all hire trust and safety teams because they have to like do moderation and things like that. But the way that I look at that is like, imagine if you're at a dinner table and you're having a conversation with your friends, and you have like this like random person you don't know who is sitting at the table and who's like, no, you can't say that. No, you can't say that. It's like they should have no say in private conversations between individuals. It's like, and what relays represent is like you can actually just have your relay with your friends, and no one can tell you that what you're saying is you shouldn't be allowed, right? And that's just, so we're basically like, I always say that human conversation was the original decentralization, and we've lost that in cyberspace. It's like we've centralized it into these few people who are saying what we're allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say. But all I'm saying is that we're just restoring like human nature of communication with Nostr.
I just look at it as like, that's the way we have built technology. Like, we didn't know a better way to do it. And it is fascinating whenever I look at how simple the Nostr protocol is, but it got those main concepts right. It's just, you have an identity, it's as simple as private public key, and then that identity, that pub key, is generating some nodes by which it builds reputation. And it is out in the wild. It's not captured in some kind of walled garden of Twitter, and then they're like, oh, we need to clean up our garden. We want to organize it this way. No, it's on a network of relays that's out there for anyone to be like, okay, I'm an identity. Let me interact with this blob of data in a way that best suits me. And that better technology allows you to be like, okay, I'm going to worry about me, about my incentives, and not be hampered by incentives of Facebook to like meet the shareholder. Yeah. Like
there's that paradigm shift of having smart clients, dumb servers. The servers are just relays. It's like you say, simple. You've just got client front-end software, public key, private key for people. We in Bitcoin, we're used to public key private keys, so we're used to using them in Nostr. We're comfortable using them in Nostr. The whole world will have to use public key cryptography soon because captures will get too hard, passwords will get too hard, and it solves those problems. So the world will natively understand using public key cryptography. But then you just have these relays, which are just relaying information. So on that note, of course, you can build a social network like Twitter. What other things are being built which you're interested in? Which like different use cases for just using that new paradigm of smart client, dumb server?
I am very interested in the president publishing an announcement and me being sure that he published it. It's not his intern on Twitter. So, no, it was hilarious to have that situation with Joe Biden publishing the tweet, because Elon can publish any tweet for any of us. It's just terrible technology. So, but yeah, what about you, Will?
It's going to be wild in the future when you have like your Neuralink chip for people who want to do that, and you have like your private key in your brain, and you're just sending out posts that are like secured by your brain signatures. You know, there's like this like cypherpunk future that is definitely going to be possible, and you're going to be like, okay, he definitely thought that because it's signed by his brain key.
But let's get back to the present, and we can talk about coin joins maybe. Yes, I want to hear some.
I brought up the fact that like Cooks is working on coin joins that are like discovery of, so that you don't have a central coordinator, but you can discover the participants in CoinJoin over Nostr. And this is again the component where I go back to my joke of Nostr being actual Web3. That HTTP connection over Nostr, HTTPS connection over Nostr was also very interesting to me. So yeah, those are two.
For Bitcoin-related stuff, I've been working on a spec that integrates silent payments into Nostr, because I realized since Nostr keys are basically like same Bitcoin keys, then you could actually create a silent payment using the key, and then it could even be a more efficient way to do scanning, because like there's a huge scanning issue on silent payments. So Nostr could be a way to like encrypt a DM to the person, like, hey, I sent you a silent payment, go check out that UTXO. So I'm thinking, I haven't talked to any silent payment people, but come talk to me if you. I think this Nostr could actually help a lot with silent payments and getting adoption there.
That's what I mean. So like we're using Nostr Wallet Connect, and we've just implemented in LNbits. We have the funding source, and then also an extension so you can create a Nostr Wallet Connect to your from your LNbits wallet to your whatever you're using in Nostr client you're using, and you want to enable Zaps, for example. And I was actually speaking to Victor from Amethyst earlier about this, about how the reason Nostr Wallet Connect really exists is because he was trying to implement Lightning stuff into Amethyst and make it easy for people to enable Zaps. But then he realized that all these different Lightning nodes and custodial services all have these different APIs, and it's really hard to kind of connect to them in a Nostr client. So then that's why we have Nostr Wallet Connect, which is, again, just using Nostr in a really interesting way to...
Yeah, people don't realize that in some sense, Nostr Wallet Connect allows you to actually run your own Lightning node without having a publicly accessible IP address. Like, that's actually a very big comment on why a lot of people don't run Lightning nodes, is that you need to have some public-facing address to do routing and things like that. With Nostr Wallet Connect, your Lightning node could just connect to a relay and wait for payment requests. So it kind of really enables much more decentralization of Lightning nodes. It makes it easier to run Lightning nodes, even if you're behind a firewall. So I think that's one underappreciated aspect of the protocol.
No, and on my end, there great talk from Prague. Title was amazing. I loved it. It's like Nostr breaks all the silos, data silos. And at this panel, we also brought up a lot of concepts. Again, I encourage you all, if you're not on Nostr, like, get on Nostr. You're already on Nostr. Double down. Find a way to disconnect yourself from other interests, like get into Nostr, explore some of the concepts we have mentioned, and also let us talk after this panel and see how we can best contribute to Nostr.
I think more and more we're going to see Nostr, that paradigm of smart client, dumb server, being used for all sorts of applications. So we're building Nostr IoT, and it's weird that it makes sense. Like, I can just send a direct message to my light bulb at home and say, can you please turn on? And then it can DM me back and say, yes, I've turned on. Or I can check the temperature of my boiler. And bizarrely, it makes sense. Like, you have an IoT system then where you don't need like these Orwellian terms and conditions, and you don't have to open up ports. It's similar to Nostr Wallet Connect. You don't have to fiddle around open up ports and trying to get out to ClearNet using like MQTT or some other open source IoT solution. So I think more and more we're just going to see Nostr bleeding into. I mean, it's I think of it as the freedom app of everything, and we will see it bleeding into helping us with a whole bunch of different applications.
My final words would be: you don't have to ask permission to exist online. Nostr enables for you to recover your digital sovereignty, and so don't ask permission and just exist online. And Nostr enables that. So try it out if you're not already trying it.
Let's go.
Very good. Thank you, lads. Cheers, everybody.